Hello. Hello, everyone. We'll get started in about 5 minutes. Grab a pizza, grab a beer. The beer has ice now, so it'll be cold soon. We'll get started 5 minutes. All right. Okay, everyone, we'll get started. Thanks for coming. This is different up here. Okay, CocoaHeads number 129. Yeah. This is our third month of doing it this way, but you'll see people wearing little stickers. If they've got a red sticker, someone who's an organizer. If they've got a blue sticker, it's probably a newcomer, someone who hasn't been to CocoaHeads before. So please make them feel welcome. Welcome to all of you. Our program tonight. First bit is me talking about the intro. Then Matt's, it's been a big night, big month, so Matt's going to tell us what happened. Ben's going to talk to us. Ben has come all the way from Japan to give this talk. He will translate that for you. Then there's a special event. You all have raffle tickets. This is to do with the special event. We'll have a break, question time, more beers, which will be cold by then. Another presentation, which will be Rob, about cross-platform apps. Then we'll have some time for questions and so on, to talk to Rob. And then we'll go to the pub. Irish time is around the corner. So short but sweet tonight. So I mentioned the special event It's, do you recognize this logo? Hacking with Swift, yep. So Paul Hudson has been very generous and he's given us 3 vouchers to give out. And so we're going to raffle them off. That's what the tickets are for. If you were so what he's giving us is vouchers for this Hacking with Swift Power Pack. So that's 6 books. They're very good books. I've read some of them. They're pretty good for free. He's given us 3 vouchers. One of them we have reserved for new people. So those are the blue tickets. And the rest are for everyone. So make sure you have a raffle ticket. I'll give you a reminder at the break to get a raffle ticket. The people to see about the raffle tickets are probably Nabila and June. We were down there. Hi, Nabila and June. They still have the tickets, so make sure you have one. But Paul's been generous. He's given us 50% off the Power Pack for everyone. So I'll put this URL up at the end. You can grab this and get yourself 50% off these books. Upcoming events for CocoaHeads will be Hack Night, which is alcohol-free. That's Cognizant. This is combined with GDG. It's a fun night. That's on the Wednesday, the 18th. Then Drinks Night, which is hacking-free. And that's at a new place this time, at Captain Melville, which is near Franklin Street. Well, it's on there. Yep, near RMIT. It's a pretty good pub. And next meetup will be 130, and that's the 10th of October. We have a major sponsor. We have to thank these guys because they pay for everything, like pizza and everything. They are Cognizant. And we also have silver sponsors who help Cognizant pay for it. And they are Domestic Cat, who are there, Latitude, who are there, and Itty Bitty Apps, who are there, my employer. And the people the place we're in tonight is YBF Ventures. Cool. So big thanks for those people. We have been doing this code of conduct for a while and it's working really well for us. We'd like to have a inclusive environment that everyone can feel happy in. So this is the short version. I'll read it out. Our community is dedicated to providing an inclusive environment for everyone, regardless of gender, gender identity and expression, age, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, religion or lack thereof, or technology choices. So that's the short version. There's a longer, more detailed version at these URLs. And if you feel like you're harassed or you're seeing something that shouldn't be happening, then please let us know. We take this really seriously. And it's anonymous as well, so yeah. Our policy for questions during the talks, we've been doing this for a few times now. I think it's working pretty well. No questions during or at the end of the presentation. We'll have a separate offline during the break time for presentations. That's just easier on the speaker and it just makes things flow a lot easier. Volunteers, we're all volunteers, no one's paid to be here. We need volunteers. Jesse stepped down a little while ago and so we're all filling in massive shoes. So we need them to help run the meetup page, open a PR to make the website better, be an MC, do better than me, be a mentor, or help just set up at the room and clean up afterwards. So you can join us on the volunteers channel on Slack. Even better than volunteering is submitting a presentation. And join us on Slack or on the website. You can submit a talk that way too. We particularly want to encourage juniors and people who haven't spoken before to come up and speak. That's really important. You'll have a reserved spot each month and mentorship is available. Has anyone shipped anything? Come on, that guy. Can we get a microphone to tell us what you shipped?
Hi guys, I shipped a Flutter app to the App Store.
Oh, well done.
It's an app for geologists, so probably no one is particularly interested in the specifics, but it's an existing Android app that I've ported.
Good work.
Using Flutter.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Ben?
Divisive topic, but I shipped my first React Native feature this week. Yeah, while I was working from home, yeah.
Yay, yeah. I think there's one down here. No, no, okay, fine. Well, very good. Is anyone hiring and or looking for work? Ooh, no. Cool, quiet month. Well, you can post that quietness on jobs. We'll get to presentations now, and I think the first one's Matt. Matt Delves. He's been a regular for us. He's going to talk about the month it was, what the hell just happened. It's a big night.
Apparently
Something happened. I don't know what it was. Do you know how to get set up?
Yeah, should hopefully magically all work. I don't have a clicker this month, unless someone's actually, yeah, we'll go for lapel mic. Okay. Are we getting, yep, we are getting stuff through and it's too loud. Okay, I'll hit play. That's too far in. The month it was. So every time this year, Apple has a fairly big event where they announce a whole heap of new stuff. But there's also some other stuff that happens during the month. So let's try and cover a few random things and make sure you're all up to date with where things are in the world of iOS, macOS, tvOS, watchOS, unnamed AR thingy, OS. You never know what's going to happen. Automated driving car OS. So, first thing off the bat is which beta should we install? And the answer to this is yes, install the beta. That really isn't helpful. So iOS 13, we know iOS 13 has hit GM, but iPadOS 13 hasn't hit GM. I believe iPadOS is going straight to 13.1. So with all of this, the real answer is make sure you install something and test against iOS 13 or 13.1. If you haven't been testing against either of these recently, then you're probably for a world of pain. A lot has changed, so just please install the betas and make sure you have enough time to work on all of the new changes before it all gets released to the public. If you're a macOS dev like me, I pretend to be a macOS dev, then installing Catalina is also a good thing. Catalina is still in the betas, hasn't reached GM. So yeah, that is the short answer to what beta should we install. Next one is a little bit more controversial. Where is my data? So recently, a rather well-known, very tall person within the iOS community tweeted out and blogged and everything that the recent round of betas were horrible because he lost all of his data. Now, there are opposing opinions on this, but the short answer is there have been a lot of changes around CloudKit, and particularly around CloudKit Drive, so your documents, your desktop, and a few other things. ultimately, it's a bit of shared responsibility. Apple needed to do a little bit better in the communication. We need to do a little bit better in making sure that we understand why things break. And we need to make sure we have multiple backups. So, yep, iCloud, if you, for some reason, in your apps need to load files in from a remote service, you need to make sure that it's tested against iOS 13 or macOS 10.15. By doing so, you will make sure that the files get read correctly. UI document, NS document, they solve all of these problems. Just make sure you go and test them. Then we get to yesterday morning, and Apple once again sort of touted how Apple TV is coming and it's going to be really, really good. We got a bit of a teaser around, I think the show is called C, with Jason Momoa and a whole other range of cast about what is happening in a post-apocalyptic world where people have lost their sight for an extended period of time, as in multiple generations, and then suddenly children are born with sight. So this is going to be a really amazing bit of television coming out as part of Apple TV. Recommend subscribing when it comes out. I'm looking forward to Snoopy in space. That is going to be amazing. There is a trailer out for that at the moment as well. So Apple TV, we know, is coming in on the 1st of November, and it is going to be for $7.99 a month. That, I believe, is the Australian pricing, and it is going to be amazing. It's probably competing with, say, HBO more than it is with Netflix. Netflix is a wide-ranging amount of content. HBO and Apple TV Plus are very narrow but very focused, high production quality in what they are producing. The next one is Apple Arcade. So we have known about Apple Arcade for a while, and we got a bit more of a teaser about what it is and when it is coming. So it is coming on September 20th. Yay, it's going to be here in just over a week. It will be $7.99 a month. Seems to be a pretty reasonable, pretty good price point for getting access to a whole heap of games. And these games are going to be pretty high quality. Like, it's not your PlayStation or your Xbox, but it's a different platform, a different idea, a different way of presenting games, being able to play them. I'll definitely be jumping on it. I think others should as well. Then Apple talked a bit about the Apple Watch and presented this really, really amazing video about people writing into Tim Cook and writing into Apple about how the Apple Watch has changed their lives. A lot of them were around the heart rate features or the, I think it's afibrillation, might be wrong, but yeah, how all of the technology in the Apple Watch has detected anomalies around their heart and been able to save them from some pretty serious medical stuff. So this is really good. Go and watch the video. It is a bit of a tearjerker. I must admit I cried during it, but that's perfectly okay. You're seeing some really touching videos and it's all good. Then they talked about what the next Apple Watch will be. So it's the Series 5. There is an always-on watch face. So this is something pretty amazing when you're at the gym or in a meeting or something. You don't have to tap your watch or sort of do the large motion in order to get the face to appear. It is always going to be on. There's some rather interesting tech behind it where they're adapting the frame rate or the refresh rate of the screen from, say, 60 hertz down to even 1 hertz. to allow for it to refresh and still have a good amount of battery life and stuff like that. There are some new finishes as well in the casing. So ceramic as a case is back. The rather unfortunate thing is a ceramic Apple Watch will cost you more than a new iPhone Pro. It's probably still worth it because it's ceramic and awesome, and you want to pair it nicely with a Hermes band, so I'm a little bit each way on it. Personal circumstances mean I don't have money, but I really want it, and I'm probably going to end up just buying it. So, yeah, this is pretty cool and pretty exciting. The iPad 9, so this is sort of like the new iPad. It's not an iPad Pro that they demonstrated, it is their regular iPad. It is a refresh. It still has the pencil support, I believe, but the really interesting thing behind this announcement is they weren't comparing it to a Google tablet or a Microsoft Surface or anything like that. What they compared it to was a laptop, a PC. And this really explains a lot about what the market Apple thinks the iPad is going into, where people doing business should be getting an iPad instead of a Windows laptop. Sorry? The iPhone was the next announcement. So Apple did a very interesting thing with this announcement in that they split apart the iPhone from the iPad Pro. The iPhone had its own announcement, its own feature set, its own advertisement, and the iPhone is the upgrade to the iPhone XR. So this is the sort of entry-level iPhone that a lot of people will get. It now has a dual camera instead of a single camera. It still has that weird box around the camera housing, but that's okay. A lot of really cool new tech going into both the iPhone and the iPhone Pro. Also, slow-mes, wide-mes, all of these different sort of things around taking a picture of yourself should be pretty good. I wonder what will happen if we sort of get a slow emoji me. Yeah. After that, we had the iPhone Pro. So this is the one we were all sort of really looking at and wanting to hear about. Tim Cook did a lot of this presentation, but again, the Apple event itself was a very Tim Cook absent event in that he wasn't there for most of it. He shared a lot of the workload, which was really good, really amazing. I liked seeing that diversity amongst the presenters. One of the really cool things about the iPhone Pro and the iPhone was the A13 Bionic chip that they talked about. And they had someone get up on stage. I can't remember his name, but he just pretty much geeked out on all of the really cool stuff going into this bit of silicon. So that was really amazing. Apple has done a lot of work in order to make this a really smart processor, really energy efficient. Might have been missed or underrated, but I think is a really standout bit. The video capture was also something that came to mind with all of the stuff around the iPhone Pro. So you've got the normal lens, you've got the telephoto lens, you've got the wide angle lens, and you've got the front-facing camera on there. So you can have 4 different video streams feeding into your mobile device, and you're able to get it all in real time and do editing as well. So the iPhone Pro is an amazingly powerful device. Allows us to make some really great apps and do stuff for people all around the world. Release dates, so this is the important thing for us as developers and people working within the community. So on Friday evening, now at 10 p.m. rather than 5 p.m, we will be able to pre-order the phones. So I will hopefully be going for the midnight green iPhone 11 Pro. Don't think I'll go for a 128 or 256. I'll probably go for the 64 because for me, everything exists on iCloud. That's just me. iOS release dates, we've got September 19th for iOS 13, and then 13.1 will be at the end of the month on September 30th. macOS Catalina, again, sometime in October. My guess, and this is a completely wild guess, is that there will be another Apple-held event at sometime in October, which will cover macOS and maybe potentially, I hope so, a 16-inch MacBook Pro. Whether it comes true or not, I don't know. Last little bit of news from the community is what does the future hold? So everyone's favourite antagonist on the internet mentioned that within iOS 13 there is a README file for how do you do AR glasses just by testing on the phone. AR glasses have long been rumoured, and we're starting to get a bit more of a picture as to what they'll be. So maybe this is something that we'll see in the future. Hopefully it is. I think there's a lot of advancements to people's lives and how we interact with technology which will come as a result. So personally, I think this fits with Apple's ethos and where things are going, so I would like to see this. That is all I have for the month that was. There was likely a lot of other stuff, but this is what I thought was really good.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Next up, Ben, I think. Yeah. So yeah, as I mentioned, Ben has been living in Japan for like 2 years now, I think. So this is his first CocoaHeads meeting in 1.5 years, and he's come all the way. He's working his way. He's come all the way from Japan to do this. Thanks, Ben.
Great. I'm just going to hold this, otherwise I'll forget. So I forgot to translate this slide. But first things first, Matt did such a good job of selling me the iPhone 11 Pro that even though I said I wasn't going to get one, I'm probably going to order one tomorrow.
Hopefully Apple Watch as well.
No, I just got the Series 4 aluminum and I spent a lot of money on that, but I want the ceramic. Yeah, I got to do it, don't I? And the 16-inch MacBook Pro, I just got to do it. Anyway, so my talk tonight is not called View Model no Interface no Sekkei Suru Toki no Kotsu. It is tips for designing a view model using inputs and outputs. And I forgot to translate all those slides into English. Didn't have time. But first, a few things about me. In case you don't know who I am, hi, I'm Ben. And it's written in both languages, but I'm not going to read the second part out. It's been a while. As Hugh mentioned, it's been like 18 or 19 months since I was last at CocoaHeads. And one key thing you need to know about me is that I can't explain things without it being a story. So a little case study. Before I moved to Japan for my current role, I did a few interviews and I was asked some pretty intense questions, and it was like, I tried to explain everything and it wasn't clear enough. I ended up having to draw a picture, and it's like, okay, now I see how your mind works. You're very artistic. That might annoy some people, but that's who I am and I own it. And that's why what I'm about to present to you tonight actually really helps me and helps other people like with me to communicate and bridge barriers that I didn't think were possible. So what are my tips for designing interfaces? Well, I'll start with, I like to think in an I/O pattern, like on-off, input, output. And the example shown here in the image, and I hope it's big enough, and if you can't see it, I don't know how to zoom in using DexSet, but it's like I tap a button and it calls the view model, which does some processing work, and then I observe the result using reactive Swift, hold for architectural disagreements. Yep. Anyway, so an input function to me, the goal is to easily understand the purpose and intent, because in a team where there's so many people with different language backgrounds, such as Japanese, English, Indian, Chinese, Cantonese, you name it, Korean, we've got Russian, we've got French, we've got nearly everyone. I swear there's someone from at least every country. It gets to the point where you have to maintain a code base that like everyone can pick up, even if English is their second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever language. So our inputs are very rigidly maintained during code review. And we start by naming it with intent and purpose, because naming is hard. So relying on that helps alleviate this. And like I said, especially with language barriers, everyone can see login button tapped. And it's like, oh, that method fires when I tap the login button. You don't call it like login screen button 1 tapped. It's like, what is button 1? You would call it what its purpose and intent is. For example, as I just mentioned, see, it's a story. I didn't go to the next slide and continue. The purpose and intent of that is easy to understand. The output is the result of that. So if I take my login button pressed function, the APL call succeeds, my output will become login successful, and if it fails, it will be login failed. Again, obvious. Though ironically, we still had to explain this to a very junior dev, and once he heard the explanation we gave, it was like his world changed forever. Like I literally saw his mind like sort of leave his head temporarily, and he was like sort of holding it like full-on blown head emoji. It was great. So reactive swiftly, this is sort of what it looks like. In the view model, I listen to the login button pressed IO's output, and I fire my API action. The success signal is the success, and obviously the failed signal is the error, and I observe this in the view controller. So obviously do something when login succeeds. And I don't know what someone would do if login succeeded. I don't know, maybe pop up an error. But like, and then delegately, because I'm at CocoaHeads and I don't want to stick to just talking about one React architecture. So this is like straight up UI kit, as simple as I can possibly make it, with an URL string that does not work and probably some code that won't compile. I didn't test that before I wrote it in there. And I observed the delegate method login succeeded in my view controller. But what about enforcing this pattern? As I said, that we rigidly, at Macari, we rigidly enforce this pattern to make sure it's easy enough for everyone to understand. And as time goes on, new joins to our team just join, they see the protocols and the way the view model is structured, and they know exactly what to do, how to create it, and how to get it done without having to ask the more senior members for help all the time. And like I said, protocols, and this has got the incorrect title, I'm sorry, it's supposed to be protocol-ly, but I have an input protocol, an outputs protocol, a type, and a final class. This is a simplified version of one protocol, which I have like associated types in that you can conform a view model to, and it has all this in it. The outputs are the results of the inputs, vice versa, and all the processing is done in here. And you observe it in your view controller like so. You call the input function whenever you tap a button or whatever. The goal being you don't actually use any UIKit bindings on reactive, because we had a huge bug that we had to resolve, which I'm not going to go into now because I could probably talk for a week on that topic alone. if you don't want to use reactive for this, you can simply use a delegate referencing the outputs if you don't, the same way you would a normal view model, I guess, if you don't use reactive. That said, I haven't written any view models that don't use reactive, so, and I mean, a year and a half ago, if someone said, hey, do you want to use reactive Swift, I would have laughed at them. I thought that was the music getting me off the stage, but no, it's just someone tooting in the street, thank God. Anyway, finally, just why? Why? It helps me personally go from this to this when I'm thinking, like when and I designed this, by the way, thinking about, when I'm thinking about my interfaces, because I know how many people have to look at them, have to use them, have to edit them. This week, my junior, my Kohai in Japanese, he was taking over some of my work. And he said, I understood everything that was left for me to do, which is really great. And he's only just graduated from Rikyo University. I don't know where that is, but he's a really smart kid and I can see him growing up really well. Anyway, furthermore, maybe. This pattern might help you too. Instead of just thinking in I/O, actually you literally lock yourself into that pattern with protocols. As I said, it's helped our juniors. It helped me slow my mind down and think in a more rational, slow approach. And it helps me describe things to other team members that don't have a perfect grasp of English, which is more than likely the case, being the only white dude on my iOS team and on my floor. So it's like I have to bridge between like everyone else all the time. So having a standard pattern that we have created using in programming, it's actually helped physical, non-code related conversations as well. And that's all. Ijo desu ne, Shin-chan doing his happy dance. And I'd like to end on one note because Matt was touting installing Xcode 11. I found this bug this morning in the known issues changelog, and I was just like, really? That's the GM? Anyway, I just wanted to end on that note because I'm really annoyed by that. And I made a radar and they were just like, it's duplicate. I'm like, I know, it's important. But yeah, anyway, that's all from me. Ijo desu. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thanks, Ben. Well, this is the fun thing where I draw out the raffle ticket. Hang on. Yep. Oh, it's a bird. Okay. Wow. Yeah, okay. So I shouldn't put the words on there. This is hackingwithswift.com, Paul Hudson, and we're going to draw out the raffle ticket now. So this is just the blue tickets. I've only got 7, so one of you will get a number of books. So Ed, will you please draw? Charlie 03, C03. Who is it? That guy. Come on. Hey, all right. Come see me after the thing and in the break, and I'll give you what you need. Okay, so we'll add these all together. Simon. Yeah. Thanks, Simon. Ed, you've got another job to do. Oh, well, hopefully it is. There you go. There's meant to be blue ones in there. That's fine. Yeah. C20. C20? Come on. If you're not here, you don't get it. All right. I think we're going to move on. Next one. Nope. Subtle. C36. Yeah, Nabella. Hey! All right, I'll give you a URL after the thing. One more. That's it. No, I've got 3, yeah. Charlie 12. Charlie 12. Hey! Zoe! All right, I'll come find you and I'll give you a URL. Thanks. That's it. Thanks to Remember, everyone else gets 50% off the Hacking with Swift Power Pack by that URL. So if you want to take a picture of it, do it. Really good books. We'll have a break for about 10, 15 minutes. You can ask Ben or Matt questions about what they were on about. So that'll be good. I'll see you in 10, 15 minutes. All right, everyone, we're just about ready to get started again. Oh. Grab a beer, grab what you need. We're about to have one more talk. Oh, I've got two more talks. I've got another talk, got Bok, and then got me. Yeah, I hope so. I'll put myself at the end. So. It's all right. Are you ready to be hooked up to the thing? All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Okay, while Bok's getting set up. Bok's a regular. Also organizes a bunch of other meetups. All right.
Helps if I turn myself on. Can you drop that down a little bit, Renaud? Just a little bit down. Cool. Hi, and welcome to my series of talks that should have been a tweet. Actually, I did tweet this about 2 months ago, and I've been planning to write a blog post, but why write a blog post when these guys are recorded for you and you can just link to it from their YouTube channel? Anyway. So this is purely a live demo talk. So everybody put your hands together and pray. We hope that it goes well. There's no internet connection required though. I don't know, who here has tried to do a cross-platform app, cross-platform framework before? Just a few people? Who here enjoyed the process? All right, we know who the gluttons for punishment are down the back there. Making a cross-platform framework has been quite perilous in the past. There are a few different ways to go about it, but they usually involve messing around with build settings or creating universal binaries from the command line and that sort of thing. But as of Xcode 11, that's all gone. It's much easier now. So hopefully by the end of this very short demo, we should have an app that runs on iOS, macOS, tvOS, watchOS, and shares a common UI. Now that last part is thanks to SwiftUI. Obviously, if you're not adopting SwiftUI at this early stage, then you can still share your business logic, your networking code, data model, that sort of stuff. So let's get started. We'll start with an iOS app because that's best. Hang on, 2 figures. So we'll create a SwiftUI app. We'll call it Universal because we're messing around. And we'll put it in the CocoaHeads folder. Is that visible to everybody? Yeah. Sweet. So we have an out-of-the-box iOS SwiftUI app. Let's just build and run that and see what we're working with. It's still loading. Yay! You guys are going to be clapping a lot, I promise. All right, so let's make this difficult for ourselves and dive straight in by, I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see what I'm doing. So that's probably too far. We will create a macOS app as well. Where is the app? There it is. And we'll call it Universal Mac because we're lazy. We're going to stick with SwiftUI again. Finish that. I'm not going to build and run all of them, or we'll be here all night. Then let's increase the pane. Create a tvOS app. Universal TV. Again, we'll stick with SwiftUI. We might actually build and run that one so everyone can see how that works. (1080p) TV simulator. Yay! Thanks, Jet. Your encouragement is appreciated. And then finally, we'll just go in and add a watchOS app. Watch app. Whoa. And then for this one, we can go ahead and activate that. Again, build and run, blah, blah, blah. All right, so the key thing for that is that we've got, by default, SwiftUI creates a content view that has a hello world text, and it's the same across all platforms. But, so we can mess around with something that looks a little bit more on topic. I'm not used to being zoomed in. Here we go. Let's take our lovely CocoaHeads logo that Carlos designed, and we'll set the render mode to template so that it adopts the color that you tell it. Then if we go into our content view, go image, name, logo. Pro tip, if you wanted to actually do syntax highlighting, make sure you've got the right scheme set. Are you sure? Nope. No, it's just name. Oh, should be dropped off. Cool. So let's make that resizable, and we'll add in the aspect ratio. If you want more information on SwiftUI, Matt did a great talk the other week. Is the video up for that? Anyway. And we'll add some padding. Sweet. So let's see what that looks like. Yay, CocoaHeads logo. But if we switch over to, say, the Mac app, here we go. So if we switch over to the Mac app, you can see that it's still using the old one because they don't share content views. So I've got two content views now, one for Mac, one for iOS. So hopefully by the end of this talk, we've got it all sharing a single UI that's cross-platform. So this is the part in the past where you would have gone in and tried to make a cross-platform framework, like you'd add a framework target, mess around with the build settings to try and get it building on all platforms. But, and this has not gone very well reported, but with iOS 11, Xcode 11, we just go File, New, Swift Package. Cool. So let's call this Swift package our UI package. And this is the key part, is the add to. So if we add it to our current project at the root, it will create a brand new Swift package inside your project that's ready to use by the rest of your application, or applications in this case. So if we take our content view, let's move our content view into the UI framework. Let's get rid of the boilerplate. Move our content view up into here. Because it's in a different package now, we need to make it public so that our application targets can see what's going on. So we can make it oops, public struct, public var, and because Swift is a bit crazy sometimes, public init. Otherwise, we get an error later on that it's not, the initializer is not public, which is very helpful. So we can then go back into our iOS target, which is just called universal. And then down here in the frameworks bit, we say add. We choose our UI Swift package that we've just created. And that's it, literally. If we go now into our universal target, into the scene delegate where all things live with iOS 13. So if we tried to build and run that now, whoops, I've got to build to run the iOS one. It's going to complain about a lot actually, but let's jump back one step. Here we go. So the content view is now missing because we've moved it into the framework. So all we need to do then is import our UI framework that we've just created, UI packet. But, and this is a big but now, and it's also a big benefit, managing your Swift packages is not done with Xcode's clunky build settings interface, nothing like that. Instead, you have your standard package.swift. And if we look at the build errors that we're getting, the reason we're having issues is because it's trying to build for all platforms because we haven't told it what platforms we support. And some of the stuff that we're using is iOS 13 only because Swift UI is iOS 13 only. So all we need to do to support literally everything and have it build across platform package is to add in the platforms here, which is an array. So we want to support iOS, minimum of version 13. We want to support macOS, minimum of v10.15. watchOS, which I think is, what version did we say that was, Matt? 6? I think it's 6. And tvOS, which follows the other version scheme. Cool. So that's literally all we need to do to build a cross-platform framework. And you probably just missed the fact that that was build success. So if we look back at the scene delegate now, it's finding the content view. It's no longer an error, so if we build and run that, yay. So that's now loading that content view from the Swift package as opposed to the target itself. And we can prove that by, I forgot to keep track of where I was up to. Now, this, unfortunately, beyond the scope of this talk is that we're not sharing assets as part of that because Swift packages don't deal with assets very well at the moment. So for cheating purposes of this talk, let's just go and add the logo to the macOS project as well. Oops, that was iOS, my bad. Add the logo to macOS. Set the render target to template. Great, so now in our Mac content view, we can delete that because we're going to share it from the UI framework. We need to go in again and add to our Mac target, add in the UI Swift package that we've created, which, as we know, supports macOS, so that's fine. Can then go into Mac app delegate. You'll see that if I try and build that, there's a warning that I can't find content view because we deleted it. But if we import our UI package, that should be build success. And there we go, one Mac app. So that's an iOS and a Mac app sharing the same Swift UI code. Now for completeness, let's do this again quickly. Now something that we didn't really touch on before is why I'm doing this render mode. By default, if we set it to template, especially with Swift UI, you can then ask Swift UI to render across the top of the image. So it just basically uses the alpha channel to do that. Come on. Oh, wait. So if we go to our tvOS app, delete the content view, add the framework for workspace for UI, and then again in the app delegate, we'll see that we have a content view, so we just import that. Nope, that's still the Mac app. So the hardest part of this is juggling too many simulators. So you'll notice now that it's been adopting the white, but in the iOS simulator it's black. It's just adopting the primary color. And you can easily change that with the SwiftUI code. So finally, if we look at the watch extension, just to get the set, drag our logo into that, delete the existing content view, and then this one, yep, watch extension, import our UI framework again, and then in the hosting controller, we import UI. So we should now be able to hopefully build and run that as well. Oops, I chose the wrong one. It's a Series 4. Who wants to go Series 4? Everyone knows Series 5 simulator is the latest and greatest. Might be premature. Ah, right, yes. That would do it, yep. So it's there, it's just black. That makes the last part of the demo. So now just to prove that it is fully cross-platform, if we go back to our UI, our UI Swift package, and we then set the foreground color to say purple. We can build and run that there. We should get purple. We can go back to our TV, build and run that, and it should be purple. See, it's all cross-platform. That's it. Cool. Yep. Yes, that's my beer.
I said before that I realized I forgot to put myself on the list of people giving a talk, because I'm going to talk to you now about DevWorld. Just briefly. Okay, DevWorld. One sec, I need to see the, oh, cancel that. Yeah, whatever. All right, DevWorld. So it's pretty much the longest continuing Australian iOS, macOS, Apple conference for Apple people. It's going for 12 years, I think, now. And it was on last week. So who went? If you went? That's most of you. So this is all going to be fairly dull. There's about 200 people, probably most of the people here, and it's usually 3 days long. This year was 3 days long, and it was all in one big stream, which I think I prefer. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And it was in Melbourne, so it's super easy. I've lost my presenter notes. How do I get that? Do the thing. Press that. No, I don't know how to do this. Oh, well, I'll just have to wing it. Wait, that one. Okay. So yeah, loads of great talks. This guy does a talk every year, and he talks about HyperCard. This is just to highlight the diversity of the topics you get. So this is Josh, and he talked about getting HyperCard working on the web, and he had script and WebAssembly and classic Mac emulation, and it's kind of presented it as an alternative history of what the web could have been like had we just done it with HyperCard instead of HTML. And so we had that sort of whimsical talk. We also had other ones, sort of more like Sam Jarman gave a talk about slowly changing things at his large enterprise, slowly at a large corporate, and his advice for doing that. And that sort of had some relevance to me because I'm at a large enterprise trying to slowly change things. But you also had people specifically talking about particular things like Catalyst or SwiftUI, and some guy talked about Flutter, which was actually really interesting. And Renaud gave a talk, a very specific talk about self-sizing cells. So it's a good diversity of talks. It was good to have this year as a single stream, as I said, because you didn't have to choose where you wanted to be. You didn't have to choose, do you want to be in this room listening to this talk or in another room missing out on another talk? So you just sort of sat there and got everything. And even if you thought the talk would be forgettable, I still found myself learning a lot and enjoying it. So I didn't think any of the talks were bad, which I think is a benefit of the good culture and the sort of spirit of learning that the people at the conference foster. This was my favorite talk. I didn't get a photo of it, but the recording will be put up online very soon. It's about TradeMe, which is an app sort of like a trading app they have in New Zealand, but it's about this Nick Parfini, not Parfini, I probably spelled his name wrong, pronouncing his name wrong. He translated their app into Maori, and this is actually quite an interesting exercise. Maori is sort of half-heartedly supported by Xcode. It's there, but he had to actually go and hack the Xcode project thing to get it in. It is supported pretty well in iOS, but so few apps actually run on it. So they thought, why not be the first? And they're one of the biggest apps in the New Zealand market. So they didn't do any machine translations. They just got language consultants and people who knew what they're doing when they're talking Maori to translate the whole app. And this had quite an effect on me. Going an extra mile to support all of your users and in ways which they don't necessarily, well, ways which no one else is doing. And so I thought that was pretty good. I think the Xcode support for Maori is actually a lot better now because he went and told people in Apple, fix it. This is Rebecca Platt who talked about UX for printed media. Like, you don't think about this because I always just give people a link. But if sometimes you're designing something to print and people like to have it printed. So you actually have to think about it in quite a different way in order to get things right for print media. And so this was some good tips from Rebecca Platt. Another great talk, Lily Ryan, on the history of biometrics. She talked about sort of 200, she is a historian, and she talked about 200 years of people scientifically attempting to measure humans' bodies and thereby classify them into different categories. And that usually goes very badly. This is actually quite thought-provoking given we've got biometrics everywhere now. So that's another one to watch a recording of. Catering was excellent. There were 3 different kinds of donuts. It was much better than WWDC. This is the thing. Everyone, did you go to the dinner? We went, yeah. Okay, so this is the best thing about the dinner. One of the most talked about parts of DevWorld is the dinner and the quiz. Our table did really badly, but it doesn't matter because well done. Oh. Doesn't matter because it was all for fun. Yeah, and if you're like me and you're a bit shy and a bit weird, then this sort of stuff helps a lot, right? So I made friends that night. Good stuff. So I'll see you there next year, 2020, right? Come along. That's my talk. we're going to thank our major sponsor, Cognizant, again. I'm winding up now. Our silver sponsors, Domestic Cat, Latitude, and Itty Bitty Apps. Venue sponsor, YBF. And these are our upcoming events. I've got some more on here than what I said before. Hack Night, 18th. It's combined with GEG. Come along. Drinks Night, Captain Melville. It's a new venue. We haven't been there before. There's a Swift UI meetup, which I only learned about tonight. Josh and, they'll be down there, and they are hosting that. That should be really interesting, just about Swift UI. It's at Transpire. And the next meetup will be on October, the 6th. What is it? I got it wrong, anyway. And its breakfast is on the 10th of October. 10th? 11th? First Friday of the month. First Monday of... It's on Meetup. Go and look at... 7th of October. Yep, thanks. So that's with Ed. Have breakfast with Ed and everyone else. So thanks for coming. It's been really good. Thanks to Paul Hudson for giving us the vouchers. That's really cool. Now we're going to the pub. Please help by putting stuff in the bin. Good night.